Today we learn about amplitude shift keying. Amplitude shift keying is in fact is used to modulate the baseband data. You know that baseband data is the representation of 1 and 0 with voltage levels. And in this baseband modulation scheme, we are using 0 and plus V, uh, 0 voltage level and positive voltage level to represent 0 and 1. So it means that the baseband signal is represented by the presence of the signal or the absence of the signal. So when we modulate this with amplitude shift keying, so the carrier component is either on or off based on the baseband signal. So it is just like the on-off keying uh, of amplitude shift keying. So this is the binary version of amplitude shift keying, which is most commonly used for infrared communication. So you can see that when the carrier component is multiplied by this baseband signal, so we have the waveform like this. So in fact, we have two amplitudes in this. Either the carrier amplitude is present or is absent. That's why we call it on-off keying or binary amplitude shift keying. So baseband modulation, we apply the pulse shaping, and after pulse shaping, we have the modulation, and the output waveform looks like this. You have seen my MATLAB programs and the output of the MATLAB programs in the previous lecture. If you have yet not seen, then you can see that after pulse shaping, we have the waveform of uh, amplitude shifting like that. So this signal is in fact has the amplitude of the carrier for symbol 1 and 0. There is no amplitude, zero amplitude of the signal for binary 0. And you know that the amplitude is in fact is uh, 2 by t under root into EB under root. So EB is in fact is the EB under root is the bit energy, and 2 by T is in fact is the amplitude of the carrier. So when we represent the signal, so we represent it by 2E I by T under root. So the modulated signal is in fact has the energy of the signal present in it. So the energy of the signal is represented by taking the square of the signal and integrate it over the symbol duration. So in that way we can have the energy of the symbol. So we can calculate the symbol energy for MASK. So if we are using MASK scheme, so we can calculate the corresponding energy of the symbols with this formula. So here I represent the M array amplitude shift key. So the important thing is to note that we can modify the modulated signal with, in fact, uh, with in fact, with this ACM of T component. The ACM of T component is in fact is the complex envelope part of the message. And as in analog version of the amplitude modulation, the envelope contain the message. So here in digital version, we also have the message in the complex envelope. So the magnitude and phase representation is, in fact, this is the magnitude and this is the phase, and we have the magnitude and phase of the signal. If we want to divide the in phase and quadrature phase representation of the signal, then we have only the in phase component present in the signal, and the quadrature phase component is missing in this signal, or we can say it is 0. So we proceed with this concept, and I want to show you the bandwidth of the ASK. Actually, we are using unipolar NRZ line codes in which we have the zero and positive voltage level, and the bandwidth of this unipolar NRZ is 2 by TB. So in fact, it spans from 1 by TB to minus 1 by TB. From null to null points, its bandwidth is 2 by TB. So the bandwidth of the amplitude shift keying is in fact is centered at the carrier frequency. And if you see the power spectral density, so you can take the value of this is also 2 by TB. So the transmission bandwidth is of ASK is 1 plus D by S. D depends upon the roll off factor of the filter used for pulse shaping and the modulation level or the modulation index. And S represents the signaling elements per second or the baud rate of the system. So here is an example. You can solve this example. In this example, we try to find the carrier frequency. What would be the appropriate carrier frequency if the baud rate is 5? So we choose one signaling element with 3 sinusoidal signals. So if we see the worst case, if they are consecutive ones, there are 5 consecutive ones per second. So we have in fact 5 into 3, 15 hertz of the highest frequency. So what will be the bandwidth required? So the bandwidth required here is so the transmission bandwidth required here is in fact is 1 plus D is equal to 1, and that is 2S, and that is 10 hertz. So the minimum frequency depend upon FC and W, and FC is the center frequency or the carrier frequency, and bandwidth divided by 2 is 5 hertz, so it is 10 hertz. So it spans up to 20 hertz, and here we can calculate the bandwidth from max to min is 10 hertz. So it is centered at 15 hertz and spans from 10 hertz to 20 hertz. So that is in fact is the bandwidth requirement of the ASK system. So the center frequency should be 1 times of the baud rate, or in our case, 1 times of the duration of the symbol. So that must be much greater than 1 by Ts. So in our case, the symbol duration is 1 by 5. So here, 1 by Ts is equal to 5 hertz. So this 15 hertz center frequency is much greater than 5 hertz, which is the requirement of the, which is the baud rate of the system. So we can say that FC should be greater than RB, much greater than RB, or much greater than RS. In our case, RB and RS is equal. So we can say that FC should be greater than RB. So that is the requirement of ASK. Now we see that for this ASK we need the modulation and demodulation scheme. So the modulation, so demodulation is in fact that we multiply it with the carrier having known phase or having zero phase. So the received signal is in fact have some phase component. So we want this to be the locally carrier generator must be in phase with the received signal, and we know that the value of this phi is known. So there is, and then we use the low pass filter and we extract the message and we sample it, and we decide whether the sample is for positive or zero pulse transmitted. So for this, we need to look at the maths here. So this received signal is multiplied by the locally generated carrier, and this is Cm of t cos omega ct plus phi is the received component, and this is the locally generated carrier. So by little trigonometry, you see that there is a high frequency component which is 2 omega c, and there is cos of phi component. So if phi is 0 or if phi is unknown, so the value of phi is known, so we can extract the message from the signal, which is, this is the message component which we retrieve from the coherent detection of the signal. So if we use the generation of the carrier, so this is in fact is the coherent receiver, because we know the phase information for the retrieval of message. So in this part, we take the one sample after low pass filtering, and then we pass through the decision rule. So the low pass filter is in fact is the match filter, which is designed according to the pulse shape chosen for pulse shaping, and they are used in pair. So this low pass filter pair is used for the uh, for the decision of the transmitted signal. So, but in band pass modulation, we need the band pass filter, which in fact extracts the message from maximum frequency to minimum frequency and centered at the carrier frequency. So this band pass filter is used before uh, receiving the signal at the receiver. So this is the most common approach of using match filtering pairing in band pass data modems. But in non-coherent detection, we use a rectifier and a low pass filter. So in fact, after band pass filtering the signal, we use the rectifier to rectify the negative component of the signal. And from the positive part, we retrieve the envelope by using low pass filter, and the high frequency component is filtered by this low pass filter. So this low pass filter is used for envelope detection, and in fact we sample the envelope and detect what message it is communicated. So in frequency shift keying, we also consider the binary version. So it is also used to modulate the baseband data with two carrier frequencies. So the data is encoded in form of the frequencies. So this is in fact is the simplest form of modulation and demodulation, and they are not sensitive to amplitude fluctuations. So if you look at the waveform, these waveforms are orthogonal to each other. So if you generate a carrier with one frequency and you generate the carrier with other frequencies, so these are orthogonal. And how can you check this? You can check this by uh, multiplying the two components and integrating from minus infinity to infinity. So the answer will be 0. So the important thing is that what would be the frequency spacing we need to use between uh, FSK. So uh, these frequencies will be the integer multiple of 1 by t, or it would be the integer multiple of 1 by 2t, depending whether we are using coherent detection or non-coherent detection. So, so mathematically, the symbol is in fact is represented by 2 es by ts by mega it plus phi. So this f1 is in fact is the frequency, instantaneous frequency, which is changed depending on the symbol value, and that instantaneous frequency varies from M symbol array. In our case, we are using two frequency because we are using the binary version. If we are using the M array version, we have 0 to M minus 1 frequencies. So, though the frequency spacing between two consecutive symbols is delta f, and for ith symbol we have I delta f frequency. So in analog version of frequency modulation, we are using this calculating this theta I of t, and this theta I of t is in fact is the fundamental frequency omega naught t, and omega d frequency, uh, which is in fact based on the message fluctuation from minus infinity to t. So in fact, if you want to calculate the fi from this theta I of t, so you will take 1 by 2 pi and derivative of this theta I of t. So finally you will get fc plus fdm of t. So this is in fact is the instantaneous frequency in analog frequency modulation. But in digital form, we set the frequency spacing between the frequency shift keying depending on the number of frequencies we are using. So for this frequency spacing, we assume that we have cos 2 pi f1 of t for ith symbol, and we pass it from a rectangular filter which spans from minus t by 2 to t by 2, and its value is 1 during this period. So uh, we see that the frequency spacing between two consecutive tones is in fact is 1 by t hertz. So because we are using the rectangular filter and we have the sync pulses, so these sync pulses are representing the tones, and the spacing between two consecutive tone is 1 by t hertz. So the bandwidth is, in fact, in this case, is depends on the separation between the frequency spacing. So the for non-coherent detection, the minimum tone spacing is 1 by t hertz, and for coherent detection, that would be 1 by 2 t hertz. So first we see the non-coherent version or non-coherent FSK signaling. So for this we consider two tones or two waveforms. One tone is F1 and the other is F2, and the waveforms are correspondingly cos 2 pi f1t plus phi and with zero phase. So we assume that f1 is greater than f2. So we are calculating f2 minus f1. So for this we apply trigonometry identity. So we separate the this component with cos of alpha plus beta, with cos of alpha, cos of beta, and minus sine of alpha or sine of beta. So then we have multiplied this with cosine 2 pi f2t. So this is in fact is the cosine 2 pi f2t, which is multiplied by this component. Now we have together this and this part, which we multiply by 2 and divide multiply by 2 on both sides of equation. So as a result, we will have the cos component, cos alpha plus cos beta component. So we have this identity cos alpha plus beta plus cos alpha minus beta. and from this we have sine alpha plus beta plus sine alpha minus beta. Now we integrate these two parts. Sine integral is sine and sine integral is minus cosine. So we simplify this by we simplify this relationship by corresponding sine and cosine parts. So when we apply the limits t and 0, you know the sine of 0 is 0. So we subtract 0. So we will have this t component here. But when we subtract the 0 component from this, so we will have this value 0. So this component, the second part, we have in fact the t component, and when we substitute 0, we have the negative. We have the negative 1. So because the cos of 0 is 1, so we have cos 2 pi ft minus 1, and we have this identity. Now, if f1 plus f2 is greater than 1, so we consider that cosine of 2 pi f1 plus f2t is equal to 0, and cosine of 2 pi f1 plus f2t will be equal to 1. So both these identities will be equal to 0, or we say that this term will be 0 and this term will be 0. And we multiply both sides by 2 pi f1 minus f2. So the simplified relationship we got is cosine phi sine 2 pi f1 minus f2 t and sine pi cos 2 pi f1 minus f2 t minus 1 approximately 0. To make this relationship 0, we have to see that this part would be equal to 0 and this part would be equal to 1, and this part would be equal to 1 when x is equal to 2k pi, when it is the multiple of 2 pi or it is the multiple of pi. So for non-coherent detection, the value of this phi is arbitrary. So for non-coherent detection, we have this value of phi is arbitrary, and we want this uh, 2, 2 pi f1 minus f2t is equal to 2k pi, because the 2k pi multiple of sine is 0. So for this condition, this would be 1 and this would be 0 at 2 pi. So, so we take this 2 pi f1 minus f2t is equal to 2k pi. So from this we cancel 2 pi to 2 pi, and f1 minus f2 will be k by t. And for the value of k is equal to 1, meaning it means that we are representing uh, one bit by one symbol, or we are mapping one bit with one symbol, so that k value is 1 by t. So for coherent detection, that tone spacing would be taken by considering phi is equal to 0, and this 2 pi component would be equal to 0, or we can say that would be the multiple of n pi. So this means that would be equal to n by 2t, or for value of n is equal to 1. So f1 minus f2 is equal to 1 by 2. So this is how we can drive that the minimum tone spacing for coherent is 1 by 2t, and for non-coherent that is equal to 1 by t. So the coherent detection of binary FSK is in fact is uh, depends on two branches, and we compare the output of the two branches. It is just like a two branch ASK. In binary ASK, we have the half of this, and we are not comparing the signal. But in FSK, binary FSK, we have two branches. In short, if we have MFSK, so we need M branches, because this is orthogonal frequencies, and we are in fact using as much branches as we have the number of symbols in the communication. So we have multiplying the signal with the carrier component, and after match filtering, we compare the two signals, and we generate the output of the signal. So in the non-coherent detection, again, we have the two branches. We have the band pass filter, and we have, in fact, the envelope detector, and we have the match filter, and we have the comparator stage to compare the output of the two envelopes. So this is what we are doing in non-coherent detection. So here again, we use as much branches, as much symbols we are using in FSK. But on the basis of energy, we can also detect the FSK signal, and we have to use the I and Q components. I and Q components, and we calculate the energy of I and Q components, and then we decide, we sum up this energy, and we go to the decision criteria. And for binary FSK, we have four branches, and we have Z1 of T, Z2 of T, Z3 of T, Z4 of T, and comparing the I and Q branch of the first signal and I and Q branch of the second frequency signal, and then we sum up these two values, and then we go to the decision state, to the estimate. So this is in fact is the energy estimation of the FSK signal. So we also have the envelope detection. In the envelope detection stage, for MFSK, we have the M envelope detectors, and we compare the energy drawn from each envelope and energy in each received envelope, and we compare this energy, and we will have the detector. So this is the energy detector for non-coherent FSK signaling. So next lecture we start from phase shift keying. So we finish here, and thank you for joining.